Back. So today we are going to talk about ORM and NoSQL injections. Who has heard about one or the other? Okay, which one? Okay, but you did see that it was quite similar and did interact with SQL and stuff like that.
These two concepts.
Sorry?
These two concepts.
Yes. Yeah.
That they're an abstraction on top of more interacting with database like SQL.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil too much, but yeah, let's go right into it. So the quote for today is the old question is in the database will be replaced by is it on the blockchain? That was written a bit of time ago, so today is still not the case, but it's interesting to see the thoughts and concepts. So let's start about ORM. The sections will be divided into different parts today. So starting by ORM, object relational mapping, it's something that you would use if you want to interact with SQL database without writing SQL queries. It can be useful sometimes, and it's especially useful in object-oriented programming. So Python is going to be the main example for today. In Python, when you code object-oriented, you can use ORM to make your SQL queries and make it easier and simplify your interactions. So there are a lot of frameworks. It's really like server-side template injections. There are a lot of things to do server-side templating. Same in ORM. Here, the only one we're really going to be focusing about today is SQL Alchemy because it's in Python and integrates perfectly with Flask. But there are a lot. So PHP, in Java, in C#, in Ruby, and you can see in almost any languages you have an ORM framework to facilitate calls to a database in SQL. So how does that work? You have something like that, a query saying, okay, query filter by username is Alice. So that's what ORM would look like in Flask SQL Alchemy. So it's important to know that it's not only SQL Alchemy, it's the Flask import for SQL Alchemy, because it does make the syntax a bit easier than normal SQL Alchemy. And this is exactly what it equals to in raw SQL format. Okay, until now, nothing very surprising, but it's good to know that you don't need to write your raw SQL queries. You can use this to do that directly. So it can be facilitating the process, and it can also be quite easy for reusing statements and making loops and things like that. So on ORM, there are operations, and the main operations are accrued, so create, read, update, and delete. Might remind you of SQL, select, upload, update, and delete, and join, things like that. So these are the same types of operations. And in ORM, they are quite critical. So you can see, first one, to create something, again, in the Flask SQL Alchemy, because it does vary depending on the framework, it has something where you instantiate a new user, you add something to DB that you did also instantiate earlier, and you add the fields and you commit. This equals to just a simple insert query in SQL. Okay, until here, nothing surprising. Read operation, same thing. You might be surprised by this last dot first that appears here. This means that I'm just fetching the first row. If I forget this, I might get the whole stuff. So not nice. If you have multiple users named Alice, so if all the users are named Alice, then you're going to get everyone. But first, we'll only get the first one, even if there are multiple Alices. And this is exactly what it equals to in SQL. Update operation, so you understand the concept by now. I only get the first row for Alice, and I update the email, and I commit to my DB. And it equals to SQL, okay, delete, same thing. So what exactly is the difference between SQL Alchemy and Flask SQL Alchemy? You can probably see on the screen right here. Bit of size difference and understanding difference. I think. So firstly, you would need to connect. So this engine part would also be in the Flask SQL Alchemy in the real-type scenario. But for SQL Alchemy raw, you would need to instantiate much more things and use different functions. Where here you would have something that's much more intuitive and much easier to use. But it's only usable in Flask, so it's quite a limited context. But it's good to know that there are different variables of this ORM framework in Python depending on what you're using. So now we know we know more or less what ORM is. Why is it vulnerable? Why is it cybersecurity? Why are we talking about that today? Because it is something that translates into SQL queries. We know SQL is injectable if not made properly and not parameterized properly. You can see the problem. We have injections problem here as well. We have, it's always taking, when you're taking user input and you trust user input, it's always the problem. You can inject and also bypass, read the database, extract usernames and everything that you get when you get a normal SQL injection. Wonderful world. So we continue. How do you identify it? You can check the cookies. In the cookies, you might see what framework ORM is using. If you generate an error, sometimes error messages might give you a bit of info and a bit of insight on what is used. The source code may be comments or maybe CSS. Sometimes imported CSS can be of specific addresses or specific things. For ORM, probably not because it doesn't use any CSS. HTTP headers, very useful. URL structure in the URL, don't underestimate, even if it's very, very long. Always take a look at it, not in too much details, but you might see stuff that it looks good. And error page and login pages as well. Sometimes at the bottom you have something saying using this technology, using Vue.js or using something else. So this is always good to look at. But more or less, it's always the same places where you'll find the information you need when you do a pen test or things like that. So how do you test? Okay, in SQL, if you guys remember the lecture we had in SQL, you test with select so that the query would be here, and you put a comma to end the statement, and you input another SQL statement there that is always true to bypass authentication. In ORM, you would do exactly the same thing, but the format will not be exactly the same. So here, this would be the query, this would be an ORM query, your injection would be here. So this, you would put admin, and then you could close it up and then do the exact same statement as an SQL one, except the ending, which would have to be not commenting out, but just adding a comma. So, is it different from? Yes, go for it.
It looks like double quotations on the sides of that second one. Is that just two single quotations?
No, I think it's double quotations. Or they're, I think they are added. They are added automatically to be. They're added before a statement. You add admin, your quote, your or, and then it closes it. The difference here is that in SQL you would put two quotes on your last one, and this one you have only one quote, and you use the last quote to end it. Does it make sense? Okay, so it's more or less SQL, as you can see. It's just another a sort of wrapper for SQL, but you can also inject it because it's wonderful. So that's good to know. So this looks scary. It is scary, but there is another slide after with more details, so don't worry too much about it. But it's a real-life exploitation example on how you could use ORM and how you could bypass it. So I'm going to go on this board. So firstly, you can use something with the minus arrow that is JSON, that equivalent to JSON extract in MySQL. Good to know, it's MySQL. We're talking about MySQL only, not a generality for the databases. So minus arrow is JSON extract in MySQL. Okay. Now that we know that, we also know that %27 in your when it's URL encoded is comma, a single quote. Single. Yeah. Okay. Now we know this data. We also need to know that when you put this JSON extract, you also automatically invoke JSON unquote, which opens a parenthesis. So you need to know that. Okay, for now we have three factors that are quite important. And then you need to know that your JSON extract also takes parenthesis. So you need to close two parentheses, and you need to close the quotations to be able to inject after. Here you might say, okay, but what is the difference? Why can I just not put my comma and say or 1 = 1 and that's it, sorted? Because it's an order by, and in order by you take specific conditions, and you cannot escape it with the comma like you would normally do when you get a specific string or you compare something. So here you need to break out before the ascending limit 2. So before blocking the results to the two first ones. And you do that by inputting exactly this payload. So quotation, %27 with double closing parenthesis. This will enable you to close the first one here. As you can see this. Close the second one here. Close the third one. So this one is automatically open. This $S is automatically added. This is your first one. Sorry, this one. This one is your first one. This is your 27. and this is your two ending parentheses. And after you can add your SQL payloads here, and this hashtag is commenting out the rest in MySQL. Hashtag is for commenting out. Does it make sense?
So the fact that the whole JSON unquote JSON exceptions
Yes.
that's not what you want. That's just how you.
Yeah, that's just how you break out.
Break out.
Yeah, exactly. Break out of the order by. Because it's quite a harsh one to break out of. So you need to use something like that. Again, this is MySQL specific. So
Because we're always in that format of double quote, single quote, bracket.
most probably, yeah. So because this is supposed to be the path where you extract, so this is exactly what you can inject, and they will have this. So you might not get so you will always get these two ones, but you might not get this first one that closes here, this one. But you will always get these ones, but this one might not be here, so it's always a bit of a testing game. Yeah, that's it. But you get the idea. So just more details on that, and if you just to clarify a bit, you can see I use ChatGPT for this one. Wonderful. So this is the exact mapping. Normally, when you say the dollar with the path, it equivalents to this. So you do have the quotes, but not everywhere you have the inside quotation marks as well. So you need to be careful with that. This closes everything as we explained before, and we can accept the order by expression, so that's perfect. This slide was more for the people that will be rewatching the lecture after or rechecking the slides, because without explanation it can be a bit complicated. So we finished with ORM. Now quick refresher on SQL and before we go on NoSQL. So you guys all know what is SQL? All worked with databases? Okay, perfect. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it. SQL, wonderful databases, relational database, meaning data are related one way or another with columns and rows. NoSQL, that doesn't exist anymore. So data is in documents, and the documents are combined into collections, and this forms the database. But you don't have, it's a non-relational database, NoSQL, so you don't have these columns, these rows, and anything like that. And the query language for NoSQL is not SQL, as you can probably guess. It's something else, but it's very, very similar. So no schema, no relational data model, designed for large scale. That's the benefit of NoSQL. Big companies will probably prefer NoSQL because it has less overhead with relationships. And horizontal scalability. What does that mean, horizontal scalability? If my mind is correct, it means you can scale with adding more machines of the same level. Vertical scalability would mean upgrading your already existing machine with better hardware. Horizontal is adding more machines with the same capabilities. Does that make sense? So this is scalable with just more. Sorry?
Parallelism.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. So that's what NoSQL is good for. You can, if you have a bad PC but you run NoSQL, if you just buy another bad PC and run NoSQL, you'll have a nicely performant NoSQL database. With SQL database, you would have to probably buy more RAM for your existing PC, and this would perform better than having another crappy PC. So different NoSQL databases. Today, big focus, MongoDB, because it's the most popular one in my eyes, but do not neglect these ones, especially Redis. Who knows Redis? Yeah, let's go. So it's an in-memory database, so it's quite useful for quick operations when you don't need to keep data for a long time, and is quite popular for security vulnerabilities, so we love Redis. So why you would use NoSQL, for the reasons I just enunciated before. It's very flexible, it's very, very good for different data types and data structure, where SQL is fixed data types, you have to define it at the start. NoSQL will take anything, good and bad, because the type checking is sometimes primordial. Scalability, wonderful. Performance, wonderful. And it has distributed system support. And yeah, so it's really good for big enterprises. Small projects probably privilege SQL, but big projects probably NoSQL, MongoDB, or something like that. Did I mess up? No, I did not. Horizontal is more more crappy machines, but a lot. And the other one is build up your single PC. Perfect. Okay. Now that's the only big boring slide, hopefully. No, not the only big boring one.
Boring.
Okay, perfect. I thought you were saying no, they're all boring. I was like, oh. Okay, so
So boring.
yeah, no, but so this one's in NoSQL you have operators. So these operators always start with $, and you will probably see what they mean. So EQ equals NE not equal, GT greater than, LT less than, in list, and regex match a pattern. Okay, this is very nice operators. They can be useful for a lot of things. They just replace or superior or and or word operators in SQL. So that's perfect. What you would do to query someone with a last name of Sandler in MongoDB, you would pass it in the list and say my last name is Sandler. Okay, to put two options, you would just separate them with a comma. And to do something or comparison, you would use these operators that you would have to re-put in a list.
So what's that? Equals greater than operator. Is that
Which one?
operator?
This one?
Yeah, correct. Equals.
That? Equals and the superior of.
Is that PHP? That whole thing is square brackets.
That's the assignment, but I think yes, it's more. This is for a PHP structure.
So there's like operator overloading something in PHP, whereby the equals greater than is overloading something equals to. It's like custom implementation of that operator, because it's not like arithmetic.
No, it's not. I think it's with the custom implementation. You know, when you in Python you call SQLite tree, and you can just put strings with specific SQL commands, but you put it in Python.
This whole thing's in string.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying this is interpreted with what you, especially only for the MongoDB. So it will not be called as code in PHP.
Okay, so one of those things is square brackets. Is
Yes.
that a thing that's interpreted by the Python interpreter, or by say MongoDB interpreter?
On the third one,
Any of those three that's in square brackets.
any of
Is
those.
that a string? Is that a string of source code for Python or for MongoDB?
Oh, that would be string for MongoDB.
Right.
Yeah, this is nothing. Here is not Python. Everything is PHP or MongoDB.
So this is, do you know what the meaning of that is?
This?
It says, just read MongoDB.
No, it's. I mean, because when you talk MySQL, you query SQL, but you're talking to MySQL DB, so it's a NoSQL query. You know, when you query, for example, PostgreSQL or MySQL or MariaDB or stuff like that, it's different NoSQL databases. You know, so MongoDB or Redis or different NoSQL databases. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I would say, yeah, more or less. But you know, when you query them, they have a very similar basic structure, but you have some tiny differences. Yeah, but more or less in generality, they're exactly the same. So yeah, it's quite surprising, to be honest. I'm not 100% valid with it, but I can assure you this is the structure you would use to interact with the MongoDB. Don't worry. I got a few other slides talking about the structure, so maybe that should help. So to continue, so these are a few operators. You can see why I talk about the operators, because if I greater than equal if I regex something empty, then I'm going to get everything. If I said not equal to null, then I'm going to get everything. If I say greater than and I put nothing, then I'm going to get a true condition. All these conditions, they evaluate to true or they give me everything. And this can be used to dump databases or get access to admin panels, for example. That's the equivalent of your comma 1 equal 1 in SQL. That's your stuff. It just looks a bit weird, but don't worry, it's going to be a bit more clear. So you have two main types of injection in NoSQL. You have the operator injection and you have the syntax injection. So the syntax injection will be a bit rarer, will be more based on the error that the developer made when he made the code. And the operator injection will be way more common for when there's a problem with NoSQL, and will look a lot like that, where you put an operator, set it to something that is always true or always false to enumerate users and start to get access to the data and stuff like that. Okay, perfect. So, example of operator injection. Let's start up top. So firstly, if we identify that an application is taking, so for a post HTTP request, you get a login form and you get username, password, and you have identified that in the database, the call is made like this, so username is mapped to $user and password is mapped to $pass. These $user, $pass are the variables that are taken from your post request. And if you input something like that, so you open for your user, instead of putting some random string, you put operator saying not equal to some random string. If you're not equal to something that is probably not going to exist, then you get everyone. So this can be boosted if you put a username. If you know a username, you know that admin or administrator exists, then you put user administrator, password not equal to something random, then you're going to get access as administrator. So you've probably already seen this logic in SQL, but it's the same thing that is a problem here. Big notation for the people that do CTFs and pen test. This to be able to apply it and to really try to test it in Burp Suite and in anything, you cannot pass an array in a post request normally. So you need to pass an array in a post request, you need to open Burp Suite. And if it's PHP and or other languages, you can interpret in the arrays by using this notation. So PHP and other languages will interpret this as array from post request, but sometimes it might not. So passing an array in a post request can sometimes be difficult. I'm doing this because maybe good luck if it's not PHP or anything else. But if it is in Burp Suite, this would be exactly the equivalent of this query, and it would bypass the username password check. Does that make sense? All good? Okay, perfect. So now a syntax injection. I'm not too fond of that example, but it was the only one I found realistic enough. But here the issue is mostly with the implementation. It's not really a NoSQL problem. It's because a user made a query in JavaScript, a personalized query, and this personalized query doesn't parameterize user input and is always vulnerable. So here, if you put something that is always true, then you access. So yeah, if you find something for this username, it's probably login form, and if you put something that is true, it's good, you validate, and you have access. So when you develop queries for NoSQL, be careful, don't start implementing your own logic, except if you really know how that works. But here it's not really a NoSQL problem, it's more a developer implementation problem. So that's it. There is, if of course, as I say here, if he was going to use username, he wouldn't have any problems, but he decided not to do that. So that's more complicated. So how do you protect yourself? You protect yourself by validating your input. Like what you're gonna hear here is exactly the same thing as I would probably say for SQL, normal SQL. You validate your input. You put schema validation to make sure that the input respects what you're intending to have. You reject JSON objects in fields, so that's specific to NoSQL. But JSON objects are the big things that will cause problems for NoSQL. Parameterized queries, same. Sanitize user input, same. Apply authentication checks, same things. And use least privileged DB account. You probably hear this every lecture, but cybersecurity is more or less the same thing, and you'll see a lot of things that are quite similar. So here, only thing that does differentiate itself with other problems from SQL and ORM would be really rejecting JSON objects, because for NoSQL, JSON can be a big problem. That's the sources for today. And I would suggest you go for the Portswinger lab here to try out NoSQL. I see there's a bit of time, so you tell me, do you want me to do it now? And I show you, or is it okay? I'm gonna have to remember, but it's gonna normally should be alright. So I'm gonna do this one. Let me double check something. Yes, okay, perfect. I'm gonna probably need your help for something. I'm not good with regex, so I'm gonna need your help with that. Okay, so I'm gonna open Burp Suite. The good old live hacking. Oh, I'm still thirsty as well. Nope, not closing so. Okay, so I'm gonna grab that. That's a high. That's that's the good old one. So, who am I right now? Why do I only have the home and not the login? Okay, give me a second. Sorry about that. Sorry, wrong lab. Sorry, wrong lab. This one was the one I was trying to do. Because the other one was detecting NoSQL, but we don't care about detecting it. We want to exploit it. So here, for this challenge, we have an initial account as Wayner Peter. So we can check out the login form if we connect with these creds. But as you can probably guess, with the enunciation and they say login as administrator, it's going to be a login bypass. So big problem with NoSQL is with SQL you could probably do something like admin and try something with a quotation mark in the password. Here, quotation marks probably not going to do the trick. So we have to go with Burp Suite. So we launch our Burp Suites. We put on our proxy. We get ready with Burp Suites. Hopefully my computer doesn't die on me. We turn on our proxy and we start intercepting. Which one? This one, Foxy Proxy. It is the saver. So here in Burp Suite, I can see where is my intercepted request. This one is my intercepted request. So I send it to repeater with Control R. Then I don't care about the rest. So I'm just going to turn this off and turn my proxy off. And then once this is done, I fully focus on Burp Suites. So if I send my request here, hopefully I get something back. Are you alive? Doesn't look good. Yeah. Does not look good. Okay. Did I kill it that easily? Let's wait. But we can, well, in the meantime, we can watch the request we intercepted and we can see it already parses a JSON for the data. That's nice. So we have this that is sorted already. Perfect. Now we can see that the challenge wants us to log in as the administrator user. I can tell you, I did this challenge. The username is not administrator. So it's a bit of a pain, but that's where the regex operator comes in to match something, admin something probably. So let's first try with credentials that would work. Wayner, yeah, I put 2i. It's not gonna work because I don't know what Burp Suite is doing right now, but okay, back. So here normally, oh, maybe yes. I don't know. It's painful. Nah, the web. We love the web. So please. At least tell me it's not the good one. Ah, okay, perfect. So hopefully I don't know, because I did turn off my proxy, so maybe it's not the same URL. Okay, you know what? Let's try again, because yeah, I'm just gonna intercept it again. You know, I'm not gonna bother too much. See if we can rerun it. So it's running. Okay, if I put some stuff random here. Sorry? You could probably do it from DevTools, but it would be painful. It would be quite painful. But so let me do that. Straight send it to my repeater, forward it, stop my intercept. I got invalid user, okay. If I send it, okay, we're back. So, sorry about that. So here, let's try something. Let's try with, we know this user, and I made a typo. This user is normally valid. Okay, it's valid. We get a 302 found. If we want to check this, we open this in a browser. And if we have our proxy to Burp Suite, we can open this and check exactly what the response was. We get a login saying that this is our username. Okay, it works. Wonderful. We didn't get trapped. So now we know what a page, when something works, looks like. Let's try to bypass some stuff. So I did look around for a very long time to understand the syntax, but it does look like this. If I'm not mistaken, I would probably do that, and I would say not equal, and I would here put an empty string, and it should, did I close the, yes, I did close it. So here, normally it should give me the same page. Oh no. Okay, I got scared for a second. So we got exactly the same page, meaning that we injected NoSQL at the bottom, and we said not equal to empty string, which is true. So for now, we are able to connect with the username Wayner. Okay, now I don't care about Wayner. I know I can connect without knowing the password. I just need to find out the username. And I know probably starts with admin something, but I don't know the exact one. So what I'm going to do here is the same thing. I'm going to inject something new. And I'm going to inject... Sorry? What did you say? It does look something like that. If I'm not mistaken, that's when I said, oh, my A key doesn't work. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Okay, it's here. So, here, if I just do admin, and I think it's .star, I'm not sure. That's why I need your help. .star, or is this? It would be anything from matching admin. So, yeah, it's just asterisk. But do I need a dot? So this should be valid. And we crashed. So suspense until next Monday.
So what type of backend do you think this looks like?
I have no idea, but I know someone's playing Helldiver. To be honest, it's got to be probably a PHP backend.
So what backend is encapsulating together bits of JSON and passing that data on to something else?
Something that is voluntarily very vulnerable, probably. Let me see if we're okay. Let's go. We find something. Okay, let's check. Because right now we don't know anything except the cookie. We have the cookie. We could copy the cookie, or we can just gonna just open it in the browser, and we are logged in as the admin. As you can see here, I would have never guessed that. So no way on earth I was gonna brute force that as well. So the regex matching this was perfectly what we wanted. We were lucky that the first person starting with admin was the actual admin, because if someone was named admin Gregory or something like that, then we'd probably connect it as admin Gregory if he was the first one. So, okay, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. The only thing I would really insist on is the structure here is probably not going to be the structure you will find, and most probably you will see something like this to inject, where it's actual post parameters you need to inject instead of a JSON that's being parsed. So keep this syntax in mind, and if it works, then wonderful.
I love that it just accepts JSON. That feels
Yeah.
so wrong.
It does, and it really is, because until they added the JSON parsing, it was not that vulnerable, but since it's.
Oh, yeah, we're looking for a string here. Yeah, that Jason's close enough.
Yeah, that's more or less what happened. So yeah. Yeah, so hopefully that was enough, and you guys understood better NoSQL and ORM injections. As you can see, it is quite similar to what we've seen before, but it's always different technologies, and it's always good to learn about that. Hopefully that's good. Thank you very much.